Hey everyone, this is going to be a brief part of a simple recipe. This is going to be a spinach artichoke chicken bake. Right now I'm just going to show you the marinade I'm going to do for the chicken. Because I'm going to be breaking this into a couple different parts. I'm going to marinate chicken tonight, sear it off tomorrow morning, get it going in a crock pot, and then later on I'll be combining the shredded chicken with the spinach artichoke dip aspects and then baking it all together. And then I'll be frying off my own. There's this brand of tortillas I've been using that are keto friendly, only about 5 net carbs per tortilla. So I'll be just making tortilla chips out of that and showing you that little process. This is a relatively simple meal for this week. Okay. So first thing first, I got 3 chicken breasts in here. I'm just going to add in some extra virgin olive oil. That's about a quarter of a cup. Some lemon juice. About 3 squirts. Some salt. Black pepper, and then red pepper flake. I'm going to add in about 2 tablespoons worth of garlic, and then I'll be mixing this all together in a moment. And then a rough chop on some thyme and rosemary. Essentially what I'm making isn't too far off from your standard Italian vinaigrette. I got lemon juice, salt, pepper, garlic, olive oil. And so if you want a quick marinade for this kind of chicken, this is just sort of a generic Italian style chicken. You could use a store-bought Italian dressing, but I like to try and make everything as fresh as possible. I will be doing a couple quick things with this recipe. Like, for example, when it comes to the spinach artichoke dip part, I will be using frozen spinach instead, just because to have a good amount of spinach for the dip, I would need to buy a lot of bags of fresh spinach. Whereas buying frozen spinach, I actually have more spinach. It's all been cooked down and condensed because it was cooked and frozen at one point. But yep. So that's all there is to this. Just simple marinade, salt and pepper, and chicken. Alright. And I'll be back with you guys later on for the searing stage and getting this in the crock pot. Hey everyone. This is the second stage of the spinach artichoke dip with chicken and chips process. I tend to, during the work week, break my projects into steps so I don't spend too much time doing things in a single day. So I had my chicken marinated yesterday. I'm going to sear that off and cook that in a Dutch oven for about 2 hours. But before I do that, so I minimize the amount of dishes, I'm going to fry off my tortilla chips using these keto-friendly tortillas from a brand I will not name because that might be a problem later on if this video series becomes successful. Anyways, these are 5 grams of carbs per tortilla. And I have a sun-dried tomato flavor and a spinach and herb. And I'll be cutting these up into chips, deep frying them, and then season them with a Louisiana sort of Lawry's type seasoning. Anyways, so this is pretty easy. There's about 8 tortillas. I pretty much have them stacked from what they came in from the package. Cut it in half one way. Cut it in half again, and you could do this if it's really hearty, but I'm going to do 8. Each tortilla will be cut 8 ways. I have some oil going in my Dutch oven in the background. Probably going to reduce its heat a little bit because I can hear it from here. These are my spinach tortillas. And let me find an angle that I could record this and fry, see if it fry. Okay. So, I was going to do a water test to see if it bubbles up, but I can hear the oil. I'll still do it just for good measure. Yep, that's hot. So I'm going to go ahead and get some of these fried. This is a mix of canola oil and some excess bacon fat I had just to get out of the way. And that'll help with the flavor a little bit. Now, tortilla chips fry up pretty fast. Let's get those going in there. Grab my slotted spoon because I'm going to be getting them into this bowl pretty quickly. Well, a little splash there. I probably filled it a little too much. I'll just need to fill it less the next round. Going to the dirty bin soon anyway. Now, this is the first time I have ever fried these chips, so we're going to find out if this is even an option. Because I might just have to bake these guys. They sure are a lot limp than a conventional corn or flour tortilla. And this might all get cut out in the final video, and I'll just buy a substitute chip. But we'll have to find out together. You want this a lot more firm. So I'm going to let that do its thing for a little bit. But normally, like a normal tortilla or corn tortilla, will fry up in hot oil in like 30 seconds. So I'm gonna wait for a second. I'm gonna pull some of these out. And this will hopefully let the ones in there cook a little bit better. Yeah, I'll definitely have to cook these in very small rounds for this Dutch oven. I don't have a deep fryer because I don't deep fry often enough to justify that. Most people don't. Deep frying is perfectly okay on a keto diet, so long as the items aren't breaded or breaded too heavily. So an important thing for seasoning is to season freshly fried items as soon as they come out of the fryer. Oh, that is not quite the right sound. Oh, we're learning together. Season slightly, toss. This time, I'm literally going to fry just one stack of chips. Well, that's about 8. Which means I'll need to repeat this 16 times, but that is worth it, because this will improve their quality. This is the spinach and herb one. I was giving a sample to my girlfriend because she's a fairly picky eater, and it's actually helpful to have a very intense food critic, because you always want to try and make your food palatable to the largest array of audience, especially when you're doing a diet like a keto diet, where it's just like when you tell someone no rice, no potato, no bread, no sweets, that's immediately off-putting. We want to try and make things accessible. Like, I'm making tortilla chips and spinach dip. Something that most people wouldn't think would be okay on keto. They actually have pretty good flavor. They're just a little softer than conventional tortilla chip. I'm about to pull out this batch, which I cooked in a much less crowded pot, and that looks a lot more chip-like as opposed to the floppy ones from the first round. Also, in general rule for me, the first round of any time I fry anything is typically not the product I want. It's either fairly light skinned because the oil hasn't developed enough seasoning, or it just doesn't look quite right. season. Toss. And repeat. I'm going to pause this because you don't need to watch me do this for about 15 minutes. So I will be back. Hey everyone, I'm back for a second. I'm frying off the last batch of my pita chips. And then I'll go ahead and get my chicken going in the same pot. I'm just going to get sear in it, add some liquid, bring it to a boil, reduce that heat, turn the heat off, and then pop the Dutch oven in the oven and let it go for about 2 hours so the chicken's pullable. And then let it cool, and I'm going to bed. And then my final stage tomorrow will just be building the dip and baking that off with the spinach, the cream cheeses I have, and so I'm going to go ahead and I hope you are seeing this. Salted spoon, seasoning bowl, drain off as much grease as possible. Come on, buddy. Turn off the heat. Give it a quick toss. Let chill on that tray for a little bit to catch some grease. And voila. Some keto friendly tortilla chips. So I use already cooked up oil from once before from an earlier project a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to dump all this oil in today. I got this little to-go container from work today. I'm going to dump that excess oil in there, let that cool down, and then throw the oil away as opposed to pouring it down the drain. Because over time that'll clog your drains. And then that's problems for you. And since this is literally just a grease pot, just turn the heat back on, and I'm ready to start searing off my chicken. Already marinated. All I need to do is hear that beautiful sizzling sound. This is 3 breasts, so about 2 pounds worth of meat. I'm going to let that do its thing until those sides are browned up a little bit. Flip, add water, a little bit of chicken base, and then get that going in the oven. So I'm gonna pause for a second because otherwise you're just listening to chicken sizzle for 2 minutes, and then I'll come back out when I'm about to cook. Alright, I'm back out. Okay, moment of truth. Browning. More browning. I'm going to let that go for another couple minutes on this side. I'm not cooking the chicken all the way. I'm just getting the caramelization in the pot. Because as I mentioned in other processes, one of the most important aspects of building flavor in really any dish is caramelization and browning of the proteins, which helps seal in flavors and break down the proteins and the sugars. A fancy culinary word is, or chemical reaction is the Maillard reaction. I'll go into that more detail another time because I don't remember it too much at the moment. But essentially, caramelization is the process of turning the application of heat, turning proteins into sugars, which creates flavor. This is going to happen for chicken, for steak, for your creme brulee. Yeah. Right, I'm going to pause again. Okay. Now, chicken is marinating. This is the container it's marinating in. And here's a little bit of chicken base, about a tablespoon. Then get some hot water going. We're going to mix that all back together. And I'm going to add all this marinade and chicken broth back into here. Cover that a second until it gets to a boil. And then it's going to go in my oven for about 2 hours. Angles. About to unveil the magic. And voila! Now that's a lot of oil and fat and chicken juice sitting on top of that, but that's okay because I won't be using most of this liquid. I might, depending on how it looks after I skim off all oil and fat. But this is mainly just to get that nice and flavorful and get this chicken pullable. Alright, so turn off the heat and this is going to go in my oven and I'll be back with you guys in about 2 hours to pull the chicken, cool down, and get ready for the next stage tomorrow. Alright. Hey y'all, I'm back. Chicken was about an hour and a half in the Dutch oven after it seared off. Here's that. It looks sort of gross, but oh boy. Well, that splashed a little bit, but as you can tell, it's nice and fall apart. So I'm going to go ahead, shred this, let this cool down, reserve a little bit of the juice for the artichoke dip tomorrow, and keeping this moist, and I'm all set. Alright, so I'll be back with y'all. Hold on, yeah. I'll be back with y'all tomorrow to finish up this cooking project, and yeah. Hello. This is the actual production stage. Hold on. Of the spinach chicken artichoke dip. So I'm going to run through the ingredients I'm going to be using to finish this off. So, some conventional cream cheese, Boursin, which I believe is a French cream cheese, but typically herbed or flavored. It kind of just looks like, voila. I bought frozen spinach because one, it just regards to my fridge, having a lot of spinach fresh, there's a lot of volume in my fridge, and I don't necessarily have that space, but I have 12 ounces of spinach here, which would be a really big tub in fridge space. So, and it's going essentially for a dip or a sauce, so it doesn't have to be the absolute freshest, but in general, better quality is always fresher. I got 2 packs of that. Cheeses, an Italian blend, and Parmesan for the crust. The chicken I had cooked off yesterday, that will get folded into the mixture. Pepper for seasoning, because the cream cheese I'm using, the cheese itself I'm using, the chicken. I'm also have that reserved chicken broth from what I cooked the chicken in. I feel like the mixture's too thick, I'll just add a little bit of this broth to thin it out and also incorporate more chicken flavor to the mixture. And ingredients I'm not entirely sure I'm going to use yet. I have heavy cream and mayo. Heavy cream, again, to get the consistency I want. Mayo I could use as well, but keep in mind, mayo is essentially just egg and oil. So, depending on how long you bake your dip for, will lead to a greasy top at the end. So I'll just have to judge if I'm going to use mayo or not. And then, of course, artichokes marinated. I'm just going to drain this, chop them down a little bit, and then some fresh garlic. For my future recipes, I'm going to try and make sure I use fresh garlic for you guys. For an at-home cheap, I buy the pre-canned stuff, but in general, it's always better to use fresh, or this isn't quite fresh, but it's easier than the buying the bulbs and letting them go bad accidentally. Because of garlic storage, a big issue a lot of times is just storing them in humid space, which causes them to sprout typically, and then start to deteriorate after that. Whereas the pre-minced stuff that we buy in the stores has preservatives, but also the price of that is it loses a lot of its natural health benefits, which may or may not be an issue for some consumers, but it also gives a slightly bitter taste. And if you are a garlic aficionado, you would be able to tell the difference. But I'm just giving these some slices. There's going to be some fairly garlicky dip. The only thing that I'm going to be really sauteing is I'm going to be removing some moisture from my spinach dip. I'm going to saute that in my pan first. And then after some of that moisture is gone, I'm going to toss in fresh garlic and my chopped up artichoke hearts. And get that a little browned. And then I'll be going in with my cheese and liquid mixtures. And then finally I'll be adding in all that chicken I have. Then I'll top it with some fresh cheese. And then bake it in the oven until it's golden brown to my desire. Give these just a rough chop. I don't need a fine mince because keep in mind garlic always cooks fast and fine minces can burn easily. Gonna go ahead. Oh, there's a wrapper. I'm gonna drain off this marinade. gonna go on the same board. If I can get all the goodies out of there. Chop this down just a little bit. It will separate on its own as well when it's getting mixed into the mixture. This will make it easier because you don't want to be dipping in your dip and just get a big chunk of artichoke heart and then have chunks of dip without any. Break that down a little bit, and this will be all the remaining cut work for this dish. Artichoke and garlic. Alright, I'm gonna go wash my hands, and then we'll go get started with the saute process. I will show you the world. Okay. Same stock pot I had from yesterday. They are handy devices. I'm not going to be baking the dish in the stock pot. It has a fairly large capacity, larger than my other sauce pot I have. Okie dokie. First thing first, I'm going to get my colander back out. Bust open this baggie. Oh, do you have the thing? You may not. That's okay. My knife fell to the soapy side of my sink, and I'd rather not get soap into my spinach. So I just grabbed another knife I had. Alright. And it's not all that moist, it's not all that liquidy. So I'm going to go ahead and wait for that to come up to more heat so I can hear sizzle. And then I'll get that quick going there. Go to rinse off some dishes in the meantime. It's drawn off long enough. And while I got this saute aspect going on, I'm not going to cover this because I want the excess moisture to cook off. Basically, I'm aiming for this to evaporate a little bit before I added anything else. I don't need all of the liquid to go away because some of the spinach water will help thin out the cheese mixture that's going to go in here. And that spinach water of course, has spinach flavor. Yeah, I'm going to let this go another minute, so I will be back with y'all and show you what it looks like when it's a little more dehydrated. And this is getting a little more dehydrated, so I'm about to add in my other components, the garlic and artichokes, and let that cook up for a little bit. For reference, this was 2 12-ounce packages of spinach, and that was about 2 minutes to get a little more dehydrated. I also spooned out a little bit of that spinach water back into my broth mixture so I can get more flavors into my final product. And then I'm just gonna let this go for another minute or so. So I'm gonna pause again, and I will bring us back to when I start adding the cream cheeses so I can get them melted, and then thin it out with my preferred liquids. Yeah. Hello everyone. It's been going for about 2 minutes again. There's not much liquid left in there. And everything is softened up significantly. It's also going to get baked for about 15-ish, 20 minutes, so that will soften the garlic and some other stuff more, but the garlic should be soft already. So I'm going to go ahead and turn down this heat from high to low, very low, because I'm aiming to just melt cheeses. So first, my big chunk of Boursin. And get the wrapper off. And then I'm going to get my stick of cream cheese. And this leftover parsley from another meal, because I like incorporating leftovers and stuff. You're gonna go ahead and mix this all together. If you watched my tuna casserole video, this is a somewhat similar process where I'm making a sauce just with gently melted cream cheeses. Well, this time there'll be no pasta in it. The whole thing that will be baked. And then I need to get, or I'm about halfway to what I want. I need to get these big chunks of cream cheese more incorporated. Then I'm going to add my other cheeses, my Italian and some Parmesan mix. And then I'll probably thin this out with some heavy cream and some chicken stock. And then I'll fold in my chicken, and I'll go from there. Your goal is you want it as an easily movable dip when it's hot for however it's being served on. In this case, those homemade tortilla chips. I'm about to go add in some dry cheese, which is going to thicken it back up. This is a 6-ounce pack of Parmesan. I'm probably going to add a third of that in there now, so 2 ounces. And then same story with this Italian blend over here. 6-ounce package. Oh no, this is an 8-ounce package. I'm adding in about a quarter, so again, 2 ounces. this is what it looks like so far. Nice and movable. What I'm going to add to this chicken is going to thicken it up a good bit. So before I do that, I'm going to add in some heavy cream to thin it out and see what happens. Chicken's not really a thickening agent. It's just like all this shredded chicken will just make the sauce more dense. So I'm going to get a little soupy right now, so it'll balance back out when I add in the chicken. Okay. I also have another block of what's it called? Cream cheese if need be. But I doubt cream cheese is anything I'll need for any more cream cheese than anything I need for this. Oh yeah. Get a little flavor test. Probably use some salt or more cheese. And some pepper I have. Well, actually, instead of salt, I'm going to do a combination of my chicken broth and cheese. This is ready to go. This is going to get sprayed in, poured into some baking dishes and baked off. I might not bake off one of them and set it aside for a neighbor or for my family so they can enjoy this. Hold on, can't really see. I believe you can see right now. I'll find out later when I do editing. Yep, that's about what you're aiming for. And I'll show you what it's going to look like in the baking dish. And before it goes in the oven, and then it's going to go in the oven for 15-20 minutes, and I'll show you the final product. All right. I'll be back in a second. All right. There it is, all casseroled up with some cheese topping, Parmesan and Italian blend mix,
And that's about to go in my oven for 15-20 minutes, and I'll show you the final product. I will be back after a brief intermission.
Oh yeah, I'm in my robe now because I'm gonna be bedding down in bed for tonight a little bit. Anyways, I'm gonna show y'all the final product. I mean, I'm not gonna store my chips this way. I just nice display, I suppose. This was the dip. After about 15 minutes in the oven at 450, the dip was already hot. Popped it in with the cheese topping, and yeah. And final test. Take one of these chips. Oh yeah. Nice and sexy. Alright. And that was everything, y'all. So, keto, spinach and artichoke dip, which is itself pretty good. But then my homemade keto fried tortilla chips. Alright. And I'll be back with y'all another time for another recipe. Okay, go work out.